Amanda Vitale, Executive Director here at the CNY Regional Market Authority in Syracuse, New York. And I want to take you guys along today on a journey through the history of the CNY Regional Market. So our market was established in 1935 through enacting legislation that set us up as a New York State authority, and construction began the following year as a PWA project, putting people back to work following the war. So we were constructed and opened our gates on April 1st, 1938. And this is a good look at what our market looked like in its original days. A couple of our sheds, which you'll see here being the D shed and E shed, are actually date back even further than 1935. And these sheds were actually brought to this location from the previous market in Pearl Street, downtown Syracuse. The rest of the structures were all built here on site as part of the project. And since we've opened in 1938, we have been providing the same services ever since. And we are actually one of the only markets established under the New Deal that are still operational with our original mission, in our original location and infrastructure, which of course brings us a lot of challenges. As you can see, in the 1930s, we operated with rail coming into the back of our commission houses, and it was designed for horse and buggy in the front of the commission houses, which is not quite what we're used to these days. As we got into the late 80s and into the 90s, we started to see some disrepair around the market, and we just really started to see what failure takes place if resources are not poured back into a facility. And so by the fall of 1996, our facility was in a state of disrepair and in needing of some investment in order to move on into the future. So at this time is when the state was bringing in the Transportation Center Authority, which is right next door, and we provided some property for the Transportation Center to come in, and the county was building the ballpark right behind our facility. So at this time, there was a large investment of $8.4 million from the state of New York that went into this facility that you see on this photo here. Work began in 1997, but there was a little bit of delay with the funding. By the time the funding came through, and inflation happened, there wasn't quite enough money to complete the project and really deal with the root issues and the infrastructure that laid under the ground and inside most of the buildings. However, we were able to do quite a substantial renovation of the facility. Some notable items: there was only one structure that was ever taken down during the project and not kept on site, and that was this building here, which was the actual original construction office, which was the first building built on site when construction began. There was no longer any use for this building or use in investing in the repair of that facility, so that was removed. But you will notice that this poultry shed is no longer in our facility, as we had had several structure fires that had happened in the E shed and D shed, and so we were able to take apart the poultry shed, which was another one of the buildings that had been moved to our facility from the market on Pearl Street, and we used that to reconstruct the D and E sheds to make them the same length as the A and C sheds. So as you come over, we finished the project in the early 2000s, and by 2007, this is the facility that we saw. And this was the improvement that we were able to make from this investment. Following this investment in the facility, the market also constructed our F shed, which is not in this photo, but that was in 2013. The market used its own funding to construct our newest building, the F shed. So the F shed was one of the last large construction projects to take place on site. But since the completion of the restoration project, the market has actually received no funding outside of the revenue it generates through the rental of space. We do not receive any public money from the city, county, or state, and we operate with a budget that's just about $2 million a year for a 50-acre facility. Since the investment took place and was completed at the roughly in 2000 and 2001. So being 20 years plus removed from this restoration project, we're starting to see where a lot of the infrastructure that was not fixed internally, those issues are starting to show through and cause much larger issues. And in addition to the failing infrastructure that we're facing here, we are also running into the issue that we have our wholesale distributors in these beautiful warehouses that were designed and built in the 1930s. While these are beautiful historic buildings, and both our tenants and ourselves have made investments into the facilities to create truck height docks and vehicle height docks in the front and back of their facilities, as well as enclosing the docks to create the ability for cold chain compliance. These warehouses really just still are not to the standard or capacity for modern day operation. This creates a lot of limitations both for us and for our tenants, as they can't really comply with all of the top level food safety requirements that are necessary to get the larger contracts or even get their products into the large scale grocery chains. So this is something that is, it's a problem that is experienced widely across wholesale markets, and it's something that if we were able to resolve this issue and create updated modern warehouse facilities for these distributors, that we really could increase their reach and our ability to service our local food system. So then this is a nice wall that was designed during the restoration project. One other thing I do want to bring to attention, when the restoration project was done in the late 90s, being that we're a New York State authority and we are a historic site, there was a lot of limitations on the way that work could be done and the specific work that could be done under the project. And so this led to a lot of limitations that have created issues for us to be fully accessible, where we haven't been able to widen walkways or doorways or fully eliminate certain steps. And so because of a lot of these restrictions, we still have some modernization to do to get our facility to the point that we can consider ourselves fully accessible. And this is another one of the big goals for our project, as our main goal here at the regional market is to serve our community in every way we possibly can. We need to be able to serve everybody in our community fairly, and we think that this is a really important step in that direction. But as we walk through this hallway, you kind of get to see a history of our market. These photos depict the pre-construction site. So this is before any groundbreaking was done, and this is what they were working with when they first began construction. We move on, we're able to look at some of the original drawings done in the 1930s for the design features and what the market was going to look like upon completion. And then we kind of travel through history where you can see the market being utilized throughout the years. You can see some actual groundbreaking and underground construction that happened when ground was first broken on the project. And this right here is actually beeline with a great shot of the poultry shed before our modern day market. It's a really great way to look back at the history. And you've just seen the way that our market has evolved, where you can see where they were selling live poultry. This was something you would have seen in the poultry shed. This is the underground construction of A Shed, as we do sit on a property that basically is swampland. And so we have a lot of underground infrastructure that goes a lot deeper than anybody realizes. And so A Shed is on piles that are probably 80 feet into the ground. And this is just a great view of, the pavement now starts about where these men's shoulders are at the time. Here's a shot of our poultry shed while it was still being widely used. And as you see, as we move through the photos, you see that the market begins evolving into something more similar to what we're seeing today. And what's really neat is we've been able to really serve our community in the same ways as we did in the 1930s, but we've been able to evolve and continue to keep up with the needs and the changing needs of our community. And it's really important for this investment so that we can see that, especially once the pandemic hit and we saw a lot of the issues with our food system, that we now know the current needs of our community, and we need to be able to continually evolve to keep up with the modern needs. And we know that the investment in this infrastructure is a need of our community and our food system.